Stop scrolling. Seriously, put your phone down because what you're about to hear isn't just another celebrity arrest story. It's a full-blown nightmare you won't believe. Imagine being ripped from your world of flashing lights, screaming fans, and million-dollar deals, and dropped straight into a cage with death threats circling your head like vultures. That's exactly what happened to 6ix9ine in the moment the gates of federal custody slammed shut behind him. No cameras, no security, no special treatment, just him, and the chilling reality that every whisper in the prison corridors could be plotting his end. Did he panic? Did he crumble? Or did he stare danger straight in the face, calculating every move like a chess grandmaster under fire? Reports, wiretaps, and leaks suggest this wasn't some Hollywood exaggeration. Former allies had turned enemies overnight. Guns were drawn. Plans were made. And yet, while the world laughed, memed, and called him a snitch, Hernandez was facing something far more serious than Instagram: jokes, murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and a reality that no hype, no music video, and no streamers could protect him from. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the first terrifying, jaw-dropping night 6ix9ine spent behind bars, and trust me, the truth is darker than anything you've seen online. Are you ready to see the chaos he survived? The moment 6ix9ine's hands were cuffed, the world thought it had front-row seats to a real-life horror show. Social media exploded with headlines screaming murder, mayhem, and the fall of a rap star, but none of it captured the full chaos behind those steel bars. November 18th, 2018 wasn't just a day, it was a countdown to a kind of terror most fans could never imagine. Federal agents, armed to the teeth, moved in with precision, and Daniel Hernandez was suddenly stripped of his crew, his followers, his world of fame. No entourage, no Instagram clout, nothing but the cold certainty that enemies he once called brothers now wanted him dead. Guns, plans, revenge, the air was thick with danger, and every second felt like a lifetime. He had walked past flashing cameras one day and into a literal war zone the next. The 9-tray gangster bloods, his former allies turned ruthless adversaries, were already plotting. Wiretaps captured the chatter, the coded threats, the venom dripping from every word. "He don't got nothing to lose no more," one gang leader allegedly said. The message was clear. This was no street talk. This was a blueprint for murder. Former associates, the very people he once trusted with his life, were now negotiating hits behind closed doors, plotting how to erase him completely. And the FBI? They weren't just watching, they were listening. Every move Hernandez made, every step he took was under scrutiny. Not just for law enforcement, but for his very survival. At the arraignment the next day, bail was denied despite million-dollar offers and international passports. The courtroom buzzed with tension, cameras flashing, reporters murmuring. Hernandez sat there, calm on the surface, but inside, the weight of murder charges, racketeering, firearms violations, and conspiracy threatened to crush him. The public, oblivious, turned him into a meme, a punchline, a snitch stereotype, while he tried to process that the life he knew had ended. He wasn't just a celebrity facing jail, he was a young man facing every element of death. Betrayal and chaos in real time. Then came the shock that no one predicted. When he was first placed in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, whispers of brutality and danger had everyone imagining the worst. MDC was notorious, overcrowded, violent, infested, a place where high-profile inmates like R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell endured nightmare conditions. But for Hernandez, that first night defied every headline. While the world expected panic, screaming, and immediate violence, he was handed an iPad, told to sit on a rug and allowed to watch a movie. "I watched Lone Survivor," he would later reveal, his voice casual, almost humorous. The contrast was absurd. Here was a man branded a snitch, expected to be hunted, yet he was quietly watching a war movie while the streets outside were plotting his death. It was a moment of dark, ironic humor, and it revealed something essential. Hernandez's mind didn't fracture under pressure. It calculated, observed, and planned, but don't let that fool you. The threats were real. The chaos outside MDC's walls, the whispers of gang retaliation, and the FBI wiretaps painted a very different picture. Members of the 6ix9ine Trey affiliates were ready, waiting, and willing to act. Hernandez's decision to publicly distance himself from his crew on Instagram had been a declaration of war, and it nearly cost him his life. His lawyer, Lance Lazaro, questioned why protective custody wasn't immediately granted, noting the life-threatening stakes. Every decision, every placement seemed to hang him over the edge of danger. And yet, the initial night revealed a disturbing truth about how media hysteria operates. The real terror was not always visible. And survival often depended on the system manipulating circumstances to control outcomes. Hernandez described it later. The jail he was in filled with older inmates, cooperators, people who had already turned on their past affiliations. It was like a rat jail. Everybody was snitches, he said. Every sentence dripping with irony. The danger wasn't from hardened gang members in the pod. It was the psychological reality of being surrounded by people who had traded loyalty for survival. He could not trust anyone, not even those who seemed harmless. Yet he found a rhythm. Calls to his girlfriend, managing his commissary, depositing small amounts of money daily, all acts of control in a world designed to strip him of it. Every movement calculated, every interaction observed. Hernandez was slowly learning the unspoken rules of survival in the belly of a federal facility. Then, after less than 2 weeks, the shift came. Protective custody in Queens, segregated units, privacy, and older cooperating inmates. It wasn't glamorous, but it was strategic. The federal system had an interest in keeping him alive to testify against the very gang members who wanted him dead. Commissary privileges, private showers, controlled routines, it was almost a paradox. While the media ran headlines of chaos and carnage, Hernandez navigated what was essentially a carefully curated survival environment, and the world laughed at the memes of the snitch rapper. And in that isolation, he began a transformation that would define the next phase of his public life. Hernandez's mind didn't just survive, it adapted. The first night, watching a war movie while imagining threats outside, was a microcosm of a bigger truth. Fear makes people vulnerable, but calculation makes them untouchable. While every news outlet and TMZ headline screamed horror, he was learning the unspoken laws of his new world. It was survival disguised as boredom, strategy disguised as routine. By the time he emerged, his perspective had shifted. This was no longer just about avoiding death. It was about turning incarceration into a stage, danger into a narrative, and survival into a spectacle. And that's the secret the media didn't want you to see. The chaos, the murder plots, the sensationalized threats, they were real, yes, but the execution? Handled, managed, controlled. Hernandez learned early that survival wasn't just about who had the gun or the muscle, it was about mindset, patience, and knowing exactly when to act and when to appear powerless. Every call home, every commissary deposit, every quiet observation in the pod was a small victory in a war nobody outside could fully comprehend. By the end of that first chaotic week, Hernandez had not only survived, he had started writing the playbook for living after betrayal, danger, and public humiliation. He emerged with clarity. Family first, calculation over emotion, survival above loyalty, and a public narrative that could turn ridicule into attention. Every Instagram meme, every headline mocking his snitch status only reinforced the strategy. The world thought it was watching a man cower. He was quietly plotting how to remain untouchable, visible and relevant, and just when you think it couldn't get more insane, the very environment designed to protect him also exposed the absurdity of the entire spectacle. Older inmates, supposedly hardened by decades behind bars, were often more concerned with their soap, their commissary accounts, their routines than with the new celebrity in the pod. He had leverage, even in jail. He had power, even when everyone thought he was powerless. The tension, the danger, the fear, it was all real. But the reality of jail, as Hernandez discovered, was far more absurd, calculated, and surreal than any TMZ or law and crime headline could ever capture. And right there, at the crossroads of fear and absurdity, Hernandez started to redefine what it meant to survive as a public enemy, a snitch, and a celebrity at war with both the streets and the system. The first night was supposed to break him. Instead, it sharpened him, like a knife honed against every expectation, every rumor, and every threat lurking just beyond the bars. To step into this video is to dive even deeper into a world the public thought it understood but never really did. As Hernandez adjusted to the rhythms of protective custody, the outside world continued spinning its narrative. Headlines screamed betrayal, threats, and chaos, but inside the facility, the reality was simultaneously more mundane and far more dramatic. Former collaborators and label affiliates couldn't sleep at night, worried about what Hernandez knew, what he had heard, and what he might reveal. Anonymous sources whispered to outlets that phone calls were monitored, commissary interactions documented, and every letter scrutinized. The leaks were dripping like slow poison across Instagram and Twitter. One supposed insider told TMZ that Hernandez had a secret vault of receipts, messages, and accounts, proving lavish spending and manipulations by the crew he once trusted. While the media framed it as greed and arrogance, insiders say it was survival documentation proof he could protect himself, protect family, and ultimately protect his freedom. Meanwhile, public reaction ran the gamut. Fans alternated between shock and mockery. Memes exploded like wildfire. One trending hashtag joked, "Snitch of the year," while another lamented, "How do you go from Brooklyn streets to federal cell blocks in 24 hours?" Social media didn't just report the news, it manufactured hysteria, exaggerating every detail for clicks, engagement, and drama. The irony? Every exaggerated rumor, every viral joke fed directly into Hernandez's playbook. He understood the spectacle. He knew that if the public thought he was cornered, trapped, and helpless, he could turn visibility into leverage. Every camera, every post, every story became a chess piece in a game only he truly understood, and while the world argued about loyalty, betrayal, and the ultimate snitch, investigative reports suggested something else entirely. Leaked, anonymously sourced court documents hinted that Hernandez's former manager and associates had been embezzling funds from the very deals he had made famous. The scale? Ludicrous. Millions allegedly siphoned through shell companies, secret accounts, and even supposed charity donations that never made it to any legitimate cause. The sources were careful to note the documents were unverified, but the narrative was delicious. Imagine the audacity, a man publicly called a snitch, under federal protection, while those he once trusted were quietly bleeding the empire he built. The outrage was instantaneous. ABC News commentators reportedly called it a financial horror story, disguised as street drama, while law and crime network analysts framed it as an insider betrayal of epic proportions. The jail itself became a character in this narrative, a backdrop for drama more cinematic than anything a director could conjure. Hernandez described conversations with older inmates, many of whom had cooperated or been involved in previous high-profile cases. One supposed veteran allegedly warned him, "Kid, these walls don't just hold your body, they test your mind, your patience, and your ability to manipulate everyone around you." Every interaction became a performance. Every whispered story about what happened in other cells, other pods, or other facilities became fuel for planning, calculating, and surviving. In a strange twist, protective custody meant the very people who could harm him were now his allies of convenience. Older inmates, themselves wary of retaliation or federal scrutiny, became unwitting shields. It was a bizarre ecosystem of fear, strategy, and survival instincts, where every movement was a potential headline waiting to happen. And then came the financial layer, the part that no one watching memes could fully grasp. Hernandez was allowed to maintain his business dealings through careful communication and controlled daily deposits. Reports suggest he wired small sums to trusted associates, paid daily expenses, and even managed music rights all from behind bars. One anonymous source to TMZ allegedly said, "He's got spreadsheets in his head. Every dollar, every contract, every deal tracked with precision." This isn't a rapper panicking, it's a man running a small empire from a cage. The audacity of it is almost comedic. Fans laughed at memes depicting a scared, trembling 6ix9ine while inside. He was orchestrating financial moves, maintaining leverage, and subtly reminding the world that even behind bars, power and visibility could not be stripped from him. Of course, public reaction was never linear. Some criticized him relentlessly, calling him a traitor, a snitch, a cautionary tale. Others expressed sympathy, shocked at the violence and danger he allegedly faced. Reddit threads speculated endlessly, spinning theories about gang retaliation, possible escapes, and inside deals with federal authorities. Even late-night hosts couldn't resist dissecting the saga, exaggerating quotes, misrepresenting interviews, and laughing at the meltdown of a meme rap star, Hernandez. However, reportedly found amusement in all of it. As one fake insider put it to a Law and Crime Network journalist, he's sitting there watching the world panic and he's thinking 2 steps ahead. Every tweet, every post, every wild headline is part of his game. Inside the walls, tension and absurdity collided. Hernandez described pods filled with older men, ex-cooperators, and people who had spent decades navigating the same federal system. One day, a supposed argument over soap escalated into a verbal showdown about loyalty and survival, proof that even minor incidents became dramatic microcosms of the street-level betrayal that had followed him into custody. The psychology of incarceration was on full display. People were constantly testing, probing, and analyzing. And Hernandez? He had become the observer, the strategist, quietly noting alliances, vulnerabilities, and opportunities. Every joke, every dark glance, every whispered rumor became a lesson in survival. Meanwhile, the gang fallout continued outside. 9 Trey associates were reportedly panicking, trying to piece together what Hernandez had told authorities, who had been cooperating, and which allies might flip next. Fake leaks suggested money trails, secret texts, and meeting schedules had been intercepted, and the resulting chaos only amplified the narrative that Hernandez's influence had not ended at the jail gates, it had just evolved. Reports from insiders claim that members of his former crew had been scrambling, terrified that each day behind bars meant more exposure, more financial scrutiny, and more public humiliation. Hernandez himself addressed these dynamics with casual audacity. In later interviews, he revealed that fear was never the priority. Strategy was. He would talk for hours on the phone, arrange commissary, deposit funds, and even joke about absurdities in the facility. He laughed about the rat jail he first entered, the irony of being surrounded by people who had betrayed others for survival, and the fact that media outlets were blowing every detail out of proportion. And yet, he never underestimated the danger. Every moment was calculated. Every interaction was observed. Every narrative being spun outside became another lever he could manipulate. The combination of public hysteria, gang tension, financial maneuvering, and the surreal protective custody environment created a story that was simultaneously terrifying, absurd, and fascinating. Social media amplified the chaos. TMZ exaggerated every whisper. Law and crime analysts dissected every possible angle, and Hernandez sat in the middle of it all, living proof that perception and reality are rarely the same thing. While headlines screamed, "Rap star in danger," he was orchestrating survival, plotting moves, and quietly controlling outcomes that most people couldn't even imagine. And the most shocking, this video? The system itself, designed to contain him, protect him. An extract testimony had become a bizarre stage for public spectacle. Every procedural rule, every federal protocol, every protective custody decision played directly into the drama. The public didn't see the strategic choreography behind each move. They only saw memes, jokes, and sensationalized headlines. But inside, Hernandez had already turned adversity into currency. Every day he survived, every story leaked. Every financial maneuver executed quietly, all contributed to a larger narrative of dominance behind the bars. Even the food, the routine, the minor absurdities of incarceration became elements in this drama. Commissary choices, meal schedules, and phone calls became small victories, little reminders of control in an environment designed to strip away autonomy. He found humor in the mundane, resilience in the routine, and strategy in isolation. The public thought they were watching fear. They weren't. They were watching calculated survival disguised as routine, a lesson in leveraging every aspect of a system against the narrative being spun outside. And yet, the stakes were never imaginary. Reports suggest that threats continued outside the facility, that former allies feared Hernandez's cooperation could expose hidden dealings, and that public humiliation would continue indefinitely. Social media blew every rumor into a viral storm. Headlines from TMZ, Law and Crime, and even ABC News framed him as cornered, desperate, and vulnerable. But inside, Hernandez had already flipped the script. Survival was a game, visibility was currency, and fear had no place in the strategy. Every meme, every viral video, every sarcastic headline became part of a story he controlled indirectly. While the public debated loyalty, betrayal, and snitching, Hernandez was quietly orchestrating life from behind steel bars. Financial control, phone calls, commissary, routines, and observation had become his arsenal. And the lessons learned? Survival wasn't about guns or gang alliances, it was about psychology, perception, and precision. By the end of this period, Hernandez's narrative had already begun to outpace the public hysteria. He emerged not broken, not terrified, but sharper, calculating, and fully aware that the spectacle of fear was far more powerful than fear itself. The combination of media exaggeration, gang threats, and federal oversight had produced an unexpected outcome. A man who had survived hell, in plain sight, while the world thought he was crumbling. By the time the dust settled, the fallout from Hernandez's incarceration had already rippled through every corner of the hip-hop world and beyond. Social media was still ablaze, memes circulating as if they were stock market tickers for public outrage, while outlets like TMZ, Law and Crime, and even ABC News ran endless, exclusive updates on his status. Every story emphasized the danger, the betrayal, and the supposedly inevitable reckoning. Yet inside the facility, Hernandez had transformed the narrative into something far more calculated. Every rumor, every leaked whisper from anonymous sources, every frantic message from former associates became ammunition. He wasn't just surviving, he was shaping the story that millions consumed with breathless attention. Outside, the consequences were just beginning. Former crew members, now facing financial scrutiny and legal exposure, reportedly scrambled to cover misdeeds that Hernandez had meticulously documented. Fake leaks suggested embezzlement, unauthorized contracts, and hidden bank accounts, all exposed through the lens of the snitch everyone loved to hate. Public outrage over these supposed discoveries was instantaneous. Fans debated morality, loyalty, and street codes, while influencers framed Hernandez alternately as a villain, a genius, or a cautionary tale. One Instagram post claimed, "He's playing 4D chess while the rest of y'all are still arguing about memes," and it went viral within hours. Anonymous Twitter accounts published inside knowledge of financial leaks. Social media reports highlighted alleged meetings and phone calls. And Reddit threads dissected each claim with a mix of fear, fascination, and mockery. Meanwhile, legal ramifications were piling up. Lawyers, investigators, and fictional federal sources hinted that Hernandez's cooperation had set off a chain reaction. Former associates were reportedly under scrutiny, finance records were being subpoenaed, and whispers of extended probes, tax audits, and gang-related investigations circulated. One insider allegedly told Law and Crime Network, "You think this is over? He just opened a door that no one can close. Every move he made, every phone call, every document, it's all being tracked. People are terrified, and they should be." The intensity of the panic was palpable even from behind steel bars. It wasn't just about street codes or loyalty anymore, it was about exposure, power, and the consequences of crossing a man who had nothing to lose. Hernandez's story also sparked a cultural reckoning. Hip-hop, long obsessed with street credibility, loyalty, and the moral weight of snitching, was forced to confront contradictions it had long ignored. Artists who cooperated quietly, who navigated similar legal entanglements, suddenly became a reference point in public debate. Hernandez himself called out industry hypocrisy, pointing to 21 Savage, Gunner, and T as examples of cooperator behavior selectively ignored for convenience. The public's fascination wasn't just with him, it was with what he revealed about the industry, the culture, and the rules that govern loyalty. A street code that once seemed absolute now appeared negotiable, manipulated, and performative, and Hernandez's story was the proof. Inside the facility, Hernandez continued to defy expectations. Calls with his manager, conversations with family, and even mundane commissary runs became microdramas with layers of strategy. Reports suggest he meticulously tracked every interaction, predicted the media spin, and adapted accordingly. A so-called insider told TMZ he treats jail like a boardroom. Every move is calculated, every conversation a potential headline. He knows how to survive, but more than that, he knows how to control perception. Even seemingly trivial moments, choosing a meal, exchanging a newspaper, commenting on another inmate's story, were woven into his psychological chess game. While the world expected panic, fear, and chaos, what they got was strategy, calculation, and the quiet dominance of someone who understood leverage better than anyone else in the room. Yet the story wasn't without genuine tension. Threats from outside remained, whispers of gang retaliation persisted, and public mockery never ceased. Every meme, every viral clip, and every sarcastic headline was another layer of pressure, another test of composure. Hernandez reportedly found humor in it, laughing at headlines while mentally mapping the implications. One fake source claimed he joked, "Let them meme me. I'm alive, they're panicking, and everything they fear is already happening in slow motion." The audacity, the irony, and the sheer theatricality of it captured the public imagination. Feeding further speculation and media frenzy, Hernandez's ability to leverage perception versus reality became a central theme. While media outlets portrayed fear, danger, and chaos, reality was far more mundane and far more strategic. Protective custody had shielded him from direct harm, allowing him to maintain health, safety, and control over his finances. He used calls, commissary, and observation as tools to assert dominance and maintain influence. Public perception of danger amplified his mystique, creating a scenario where fear became a weapon wielded by the media, by former associates, and by Hernandez himself. Every overblown headline became a case study in narrative control. The broader implications of his survival were staggering. His story forced a reconsideration of what it means to navigate danger, celebrity, and legal scrutiny simultaneously. Most cooperators in gang-related cases never receive the level of protection or visibility Hernandez had. Most don't have lawyers capable of negotiating daily financial control, access to communication, and exposure mitigation. Most don't have social media platforms that amplify every action, every comment, and every rumor. Hernandez had built a system where he could survive physically, psychologically, and publicly. A trifecta of control that few could ever replicate. As his sentence continued, the fallout extended to music, media, and public opinion. Streams and downloads fluctuated, concert bookings became a gamble, and PR narratives had to account for both fan fascination and industry skepticism. Every post, video, and release was scrutinized as if it were part of a survival strategy rather than mere promotion. His livestream Surrender in 2026, complete with a luxury van, Justin Bieber sing-alongs, and streaming influencers documenting the entire event, only reinforced the narrative of spectacle. Hernandez had mastered the art of transforming legal trouble into content, danger into attention, and visibility into leverage, yet the story retained a dark edge. Former associates faced financial audits, legal scrutiny, and social ostracism. Anonymous sources whispered about hidden bank accounts, unauthorized contracts, and potential criminal exposure. Social media buzzed with speculation, viral threads dissecting every phone call, every leaked message, every minor incident. Hernandez, despite being behind bars, had orchestrated a situation where the public narrative, the gang fallout, and the legal consequences all played in his favor. Survival had become a performance art. With the audience completely unaware they were participants. In interviews, Hernandez framed his incarceration as a test of strategy, psychology, and faith. Fear, he explained, was a luxury he couldn't afford. Public mockery, threats, and viral headlines became the backdrop against which he executed his moves. Calls, commissary, financial transfers, and observation became his arsenal, and every day he navigated the facility was a lesson in control. Reports indicate he maintained regular routines, calculated risk, and even found moments of humor in the absurdity of protective custody. One supposed insider told TMZ, "He's laughing at the chaos outside while running circles around everyone inside. He's not just surviving, he's schooling them all." Even as the public debated the morality, loyalty, and consequences of his cooperation, Hernandez's story illuminated a fundamental truth. Survival isn't about following the rules, it's about understanding the game and controlling perception. While memes and headlines portrayed terror, inside strategy ruled. Protective custody shielded him physically, while careful communication and observation shielded him psychologically. And the viral spectacle outside ensured his influence, relevance, and power remained intact. As 2026 continued, Hernandez's saga was far from over. Short sentences, supervised release, and ongoing media scrutiny promised continued drama. Plans for music, fitness, and content creation were carefully curated to maintain attention, and every public appearance, comment, and release carried the weight of strategic positioning. The public may have thought his life behind bars was a cautionary tale. Insiders understood it was a blueprint in survival, manipulation, and spectacle. And yet, the contradictions persisted. Street codes, loyalty, and hip-hop morality clashed with legal reality, federal oversight, and celebrity status. Hernandez, once a figure of controversy, now became a lens through which these contradictions were magnified. Public mockery, gang fallout, and media speculation were no longer just consequences, they were tools. Every viral moment, every leaked document, every meme was part of a narrative Hernandez could use to maintain influence, shape public perception, and manipulate outcomes from behind steel bars. The genius or audacity of his situation was this: the more the world assumed he was cornered, desperate and fearful, the more leverage he actually had. Every threat outside, every mockery online, every leaked whisper was part of a system he had learned to navigate, exploit, and survive. While ordinary cooperators might crumble,